Duhad and RollDX present XCOM, Equestria Unknown, by Blueshift.
The spacecraft sailed silently through the void of space, cutting its way through the infinite blackness as slowly but surely it approached its destination. A tiny, green-blue orb hung in the vacuum like a shining jewel. But to Colonel Mike Hunt, as he stared out the ship's window, it meant only one thing. Revenge. He supposed that his own planet, the Earth, had looked just as serene and peaceful as the vast alien armada arrived to attempt to sink their filthy reptilian claws into his homeworld. The aliens had struck fast and without warning. First with their sectoid scouts that kidnapped innocent women and children and enslaved minds with their insidious psi powers. Then came the floaters and mutons, horrific amalgamations of flesh and machine that annihilated everything in their path. Earth had been on its knees. The XCOM had fought back. The aliens might have had superior technology and weapons, but XCOM had something they did not. Lots and lots and lots and lots of soldiers. After battle of heroically sending more and more XCOM soldiers at the invaders, they were finally able to drown the aliens in blood and push back. After that terrible final battle aboard the alien mothership, the Earth was safe. Or was it? For humanity knew that their foes were lurking out there in the darkness, watching and waiting to strike again. XCOM was nothing if not ingenious, though, and so a captured UFO had been retrofitted, and using alien star charts, a small team had been chosen to fly to the alien homeworld to take the battle to them. Colonel Hunt bunched a fist and punched the window in frustration as he thought of the brave men and women who had died to get them this far. A manly tear trickled down his cheek to nestle in his gigantic beard.
That's XCOM, baby.
A manly tear trickled down his cheek to nestle in his gigantic beard. Colonel, we're ready to go. Grant Powergloves, Hunt's right-hand man, waved from the Skyranger. Grant was a brute of a man, a gigantic Russian paratrooper who sported a bright pink goatee and spoke in a heavy American accent. As the team's assault specialist, he had pulled XCOM out of many a tricky situation in the past, armed with only his wit, a sharp mind, and a gigantic laser gun. Hunt nodded in the affirmative and strode determinedly up the ramp, the sealed orders from XCOM headquarters clutched in his hand. This was a mission he knew many might not survive, but such was the life of an XCOM operative. As the ramp swung shut behind him, and the familiar whine of the Skyranger's engines filled the room, he surveyed his team.
We stand at the end of a long journey,
he boomed out, nodding to each and every one of his loyal soldiers in turn.
These alien scum thought they could invade Earth. They were wrong. They thought they would be safe if they ran back home. They were wrong. In 10 minutes, we'll touch down in the first habitable area we see and show them what they get when they mess with XCOM.
Yeah! The cry went up as one from the 4 seated soldiers around him. At the back of the Skyranger, someone shouted,
That's XCOM, baby!
Oh, we catch those aliens on the toilet.
Grant Powergloves piped up, waving his shotgun. After a brief pause, he added,
So we can shoot it, not, watch or anything. That's
yeah!
XCOM, baby!
XCOM, baby!
Everyone punched the air in unison. Everyone but Hunt, who stared at Grant's gun.
Major Powergloves,
he muttered, raising an eyebrow.
That's a standard issue shotgun. Where's your gigantic laser gun?
Powergloves shrugged.
We ran out, sir. Engineering said a new one would cost $20, and they didn't have the budget for it, so I'm going retro.
He waved his double-barreled shotgun in the air.
I mean, yeah, I could have lent them the cash, but screw that.
It's true, sir.
Piped up the team's medic, Dr. Gorillapower, a slight Japanese woman with a heavy American accent.
It's the damn bean counters. If I'm not in the field murdering gigantic alien death robots, I'm being sent door to door trying to sell alien corpses for $5 each to prop up the XCOM budget.
I bet the coffee machine cost more than $20.
Powergloves snapped back. Hunt rankled at this insubordination.
Calm down, man. In the face of planetary annihilation, of course, there need to be some budget cuts.
Like my armor?
The squad's Brazilian sniper, Hooty McOwlyface, pointed to the heavy Titan armor she was wearing, a large, all-encompassing bodysuit which sported a massive gaping hole in the chest area caked with dry blood.
I swear, this is a hand-me-down, but engineering says it's a design feature.
She whined in her heavy American accent.
At least you have armor.
Hunt's attention was drawn to the team's heavy weapons specialist, Biceps McKillicutter, a large, blue-bearded Egyptian with a heavy American accent. McKillicutter had been sat near the back, so Hunt had not paid him much attention, but now it was obvious that McKillicutter wasn't wearing any armor at all.
McKillicutter!
Hunt barked out.
Why on earth have you come to work in your pajamas?
McKillicutter shrugged.
I was supposed to be in the Archangel armor. It was my turn to be the heavily armored flying guy, but that bastard Slingblade Metastalker has still got it.
Hunt shook his head in disbelief.
Slingblade Murder Stalker isn't on this mission.
I know.
McKillicutter rolled his one good eye.
But he wouldn't give it back. He locked himself in the toilet and said he wasn't coming out until after he'd finished. And sir?
He lowered his voice.
It was number 2. I ain't gonna wear that after him.
Fine, fine.
Hunt threw his hands in the air and took his own seat, sparing a glance out of the viewport at the rapidly approaching planet.
Too late to turn back now. Go invade a planet full of hostile aliens in your pajamas. See if I care.
He withdrew a small knife and tore open the sealed orders, carefully reading the instructions. There was silence. Powergloves was the first to speak.
Sir? What's the mission name?
That's not important.
Hunt snapped back, almost too fast.
It kind of is.
Hooty McOwlyface paused in her peering down the gun barrel of a sniper rifle to query Hunt.
How else will we know what we need to do?
Hunt sighed.
Look, the mission names aren't important. They're just randomly generated by computer or something. It's not relevant.
A chorus of protest crowded across him and he rolled his eyes one final time.
Fine, fine. If you really want to know, this is Operation Exploding Face. No, don't look at me like that. It's obviously talking about the aliens' faces exploding, not ours.
So, what's the mission?
Powergloves leaned back in his chair with a pout.
There's 2 objectives.
Hunt stared at the sheet of paper in his hands.
Objective 1, kill everything.
And 2?
McKillicutter asked cautiously.
2 is...
Hunt pursed his lips.
Objective 2 is, don't die too horribly.
There was a pregnant pause in the room until Dr. Gorillapower punched the air and shouted,
That's XCOM, baby!
The others soon joined in, and even Hunt found himself yelling at the chant. The aliens wouldn't know what hit them. Literally, nothing could go wrong. Like a vast predatory bird, the Skyranger cut through the atmosphere of the planet, streaking across the blue skies towards its destination, before landing with a roar of vengeance and disgorging its cargo of hardened XCOM soldiers.
Go, go, go!
Hunt screamed at the top of his lungs as the soldiers raced off the ramp and into unknown territory. He knew there could be instant death waiting for them the minute they stepped onto hostile soil. Some sort of alien battle fortress, an army of horrible brain-eating monsters, anything. He did not expect this.
Blow me down.
Hunt's run slowed to a crawl, and he eventually stopped as he looked about in bewilderment. While no one had any idea about what to expect, the general consensus was that the alien homeworld would look a bit more evil than this. Instead, the sky was a bright blue. Lush green fields and hills stretched as far as the eye could see, and instead of a death fortress, the Skyranger had touched down in front of a small, picturesque village that wouldn't have looked out of place in a child's coloring book. Despite it being bright daylight, the village looked deserted, but telltale wisps of smoke from various chimneys indicated that they were not alone.
I don't get it.
Powergloves clutched his shotgun to his chest protectively as he looked about.
It looks so nice. Are you sure this is the right planet?
Of course I am!
Hunt snapped back.
Are you calling into doubt the efficiency of XCOM? This is the right place, alright.
He trailed off thoughtfully.
Perhaps this is how the aliens live. Maybe they attack other planets to finance their cushy lifestyles. Or it could be a trick. Maybe we're being mind-controlled.
He wheeled around.
You did all bring your mind shields, right?
Everyone shook their heads in unison. Hunt slumped his shoulders.
Fine. Well, if we encounter any aliens, just make sure not to let them enslave your brains.
He crouched down against the grass, staring at the houses.
Okay, it may look clear, but you know how this works. One step in the wrong direction, and suddenly 10 gigantic alien war robots will step out of the nowhere and blow your head up. Remember the XCOM motto.
He patted the inscribed badge on his chest.
Vigilo Confido.
What does that mean anyway?
Hooty McOwlyface waddled off the ramp last, and to Hunt's annoyance, he saw that she was carrying her sniper rifle by the end of the barrel.
It means...
He shook his head.
It means that's XCOM, baby!
Yeah!
Yeah!
They all shouted in unison. Hunt licked his dry lips as they began to crack from the tension. Besides the Skyranger, they were exposed to any alien counterattack. They needed to move closer to the buildings to get to cover, but it was a long way.
Okay, here's a plan.
He finally declared.
Hooty, you stick with me. We'll hang back. McKillicutter, you make your way to the back of the large pink and blue circular building. Powergloves, you hide behind the fountain in the center of the settlement. Gorillapower, you circle behind the building with the roof that looks like it's made out of gingerbread.
4 heads nodded their assent, Like a well-oiled machine, the XCOM forces dashed across the bright green grass toward their respective destinations, knowing that any moment could bring about their horrible, bloody deaths. It wasn't long before the specter of certain doom raised its head.
X-ray sighted!
Screamed Powergloves into his radio at the top of his voice as he dashed towards the fountain, throwing himself down to hide beneath the rim. Quaking, he peered up as a bright orange flash of movement scampered towards him.
I'm pinned down!
He cried, cocking his gun.
It's coming right for me!
Hunt and McOwlyface threw themselves behind a stack of cardboard boxes as the creature revealed itself.
What is it?
Hunt mumbled, staring hard at the unfamiliar creature in the distance.
I've not seen anything like that before.
Hunt's radio crackled into life.
I can see it!
Came the voice of McKillicutter.
It's some sort of orange four-legged beast. A Chrysalid!
Burbled out Powergloves from his exposed position.
It's gonna lay eggs in my face!
The alien ambled slowly out of cover, getting ever closer to Powergloves before stopping behind a flower pot. From his vantage point, Hunt blinked in surprise.
I can see it!
Whispered urgently into his radio.
It's some sort of small winged equine creature.
Is it going to lay eggs in my face?
Powergloves risked a peek before recoiling suddenly at the closeness of the creature to its position.
Oh God! It's going to lay eggs in my face!
Powergloves!
Hunt barked out at his radio.
Don't let it lay eggs in your face. That's an order.
He patted McOwlyface on the shoulder, pointing to the orange creature in the distance.
Right, Hooty. You're up. Take the bastard out.
McOwlyface slowly took out her sniper rifle and stared down the scope. After a moment, she turned back to Hunt.
What shot?
The alien! Shoot the alien!
Hunt pointed a finger towards the orange thing.
That one!
McOwlyface leaned forward.
What one? I don't see anything.
Behind the flower pot.
Hunt found himself shouting despite his deep professionalism.
It's hiding behind the small plant pot.
McOwlyface didn't look convinced as she picked up her gun again.
I'm not shooting a plant pot. Once I see the alien, I'll shoot it.
I got it, sir.
McKillicutter crept around the circumference of the building he had been hiding behind to raise his excessively large gun and let loose a hail of plasma bolts in the direction of the enemy. The entire town square exploded into flames. The fountain that Powergloves was hiding behind shattered into rubble, causing a few more terrified squeaks from the radio. Unfortunately, the only thing the gun did not hit was the alien.
Damn it! Damn it!
Powergloves cocked his shotgun and stood up.
That's it! I'm not going down without a fight! I'm gonna blow that thing's brains out!
Ignoring the cries of protest from his teammates, he dashed out of his remaining cover towards the alien contact.
Die, you bastard, die!
If he was thinking a bit more clearly, he would have noticed that the alien did look a bit like a pony. It had been a pretty good day for Scootaloo. The happy little pony had gotten up early in the morning, done all her chores, and then spent the morning playing with her friends. She had found a shiny 1-bit coin on the ground and used it to buy a delicious cake for her hero Rainbow Dash, which had earned her a pat on the head. Later, she was planning to attend an art and crafts fair at the town hall. Yes, it was a pretty good day, but it had just gotten better. She had been idly trotting along beside the town fountain when she saw a strange monkey hiding behind it.
But before she went to say hello, she realized that it might be playing hide-and-seek.
Not wanting to spoil its game,
she ran behind the nearest flower pot. After all, joining in games was fun.
Apparently, she must have won the game because another monkey ran out and started letting off fireworks.
This made Scootaloo smile so happily at all the pretty lights and colors that flashed across the town square, although it did accidentally break the fountain.
Then the first monkey ran up to Scootaloo, holding a long tube and waving the end at her. Scootaloo wasn't a silly pony. She was almost 6 years old and thought of herself as very clever. She remembered helping Pinkie Pie out in her bakery making cakes. Pinkie Pie had a long tube that she squirted icing from onto the cakes.
Obviously, this monkey was holding an icing dispenser, and this was her prize for winning the game.
Die, alien scum, die!
Powergloves couldn't believe his luck.
His clever flanking of the alien resulted in the perfect kill shot, and the alien seemed to realize this, giving up and placing its mouth over the end of his shotgun. With a deep glow of satisfaction, Powergloves pulled the trigger.
Shot wide!
Powergloves cursed as somehow his guaranteed shot missed, the bullet thudding into the ground by his feet. He fumbled with his gun, desperate to reload and try again, but realizing that this close to the enemy, he was dead meat.
It's gonna lay eggs in me!
He wailed. Suddenly, thankfully, the creature bolted away. As it moved from cover, racing towards the building McKillicutter was hiding behind. XCOM sprang into action. Hunt's laser rifle rang out, but to no avail, as the shot missed. Gorillapower and McKillicutter both opened fire at once at the exposed pony as it darted across the town square, but their shots, too, went wide off the mark. Cursing, Hunt turned to McOwlyface.
There!
He shouted.
Now, sniper rifle!
McOwlyface picked up her sniper rifle, closed one eye, waited until the orange pony's head was directly in her crosshairs, and fired. The shot sailed far over the pony's head, and it ran into the building, slamming the door behind it. Hunt ground his teeth in annoyance.
Okay.
He hissed into his radio.
Move in around the building, but be careful. Silence is our watchword. McKillicutter, I want you to get around to the other side of the building. See if you can flank it.
As the other soldiers stalked forward, McKillicutter saluted.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Sweetie Belle, you'll never guess what.
Scootaloo scampered into the carousel boutique, her mane frizzed up from the exertion as she looked about for her best friend in the whole world.
There are all these monkeys in the town square, and they had fireworks and icing tubes, and now that isn't a way for a young filly to behave.
Scootaloo clamped her mouth shut as Sweetie Belle's older sister Rarity ambushed her with a large frilly hat. To Scootaloo's horror, she saw that Sweetie Belle had already been flanked and was uncomfortably sporting a pink lacy dress.
Now how about this?
Rarity smirked as the hat landed on Scootaloo's head at a jaunty angle.
Let me get my camera. This will make a darling headshot.
She tweeted. Scootaloo threw the hat down and stamped on it ungratefully.
No time for dress up. There's a party outside. It's not going to come in here.
Before Rarity could respond, a loud screaming suddenly filled the air, and the form of McKillicutter launched itself through a window, sending shards of broken glass everywhere. McKillicutter ignored the ponies as he continued to scream, waving his gun above his head before smashing headfirst into the wall and exiting the building through the enormous hole he had created. Rarity stared after the strange man.
Was he on fire?
How is he on fire?
Hunt looked on in disbelief as McKillicutter rolled about in agony on the ground.
McKillicutter, I meant go around the building, not through it.
Hissed into his radio somewhat redundantly before standing and waving his rifle.
McKillicutter needs a medic. Dr. Gorillapower, move in.
Dr. Gorillapower waved awkwardly at Hunt from across the street.
I've not got any medkits, sir. Sorry.
What?
Hunt yelled, forgetting the need for stealth at the moment.
You're the team medic. What the hell did you bring?
Combat stems!
Dr. Gorillapower pointed at her belt, which is bulging at the seams with hypodermic needles.
Lots and lots of combat stems. Look!
She took one out and jabbed it into her arm, sighing happily.
You realize those are just sugar and water, right? They don't do anything.
Hunt sank back down again.
McOwlyface, do you have a shot?
McOwlyface stared down the barrel of her rifle towards the hole in the window McKillicutter had made.
No, sir. No line of sight.
Don't worry, I've got a medkit.
Powergloves started to run towards the fallen McKillicutter as he rooted through his belt's pouches.
Oh, wait, no. A grenade!
He held it up triumphantly. The grenade slipped from his fingers and rolled down his sleeve. His eyes boggled wide as the grenade slipped down the front of his armor and began to frantically beep.
Oh well.
He sighed.
That's XCOM, baby.
Colonel Hunt hit the floor as Powergloves exploded into a fine mist.
Man down! Man down!
He shouted.
Everyone pull back! Get to cover!
McKillicutter patted the last of the flames up and staggered to his feet.
Don't worry, I got it.
He shouted, glaring in the direction of Scootaloo, Rarity, and Sweetie Belle through the hole in the building's wall.
3 cooked aliens coming right up. You won't die in vain, Powergloves.
Unhooking a large rocket launcher from his back, he slung the weapon across his shoulder and let loose a missile directly at the 3 ponies.
McKillicutter, no!
Hunt screamed out, but it was too late. The rocket veered off course, whooshing straight through the building, straight into the boxes behind which Hunt and McOwlyface were hiding. The boxes exploded in a fireball, sending Hunt and McOwlyface sprawling out onto the ground.
Shot wide!
McKillicutter called out, somewhat redundantly. Hunt grunted as pain arced through his body, slowly crawling across the ground, grabbing handful after handful of bright green grass as he struggled away from the fire.
McOwlyface, you still with me?
He croaked.
Don't worry, sir.
Hooty was bruised and burnt, but still alive. She raised her sniper rifle, aiming it once more at the exposed flank of Rarity through the building.
Don't worry. I've got this.
The shot rang out.
Shot wide!
Hooty shouted. Dr. Gorillapower pressed herself back against the building and stabbed another combat stem into her arm.
This is worse than that time in Mumbai when we thought we killed all those aliens, so Radical Larry went to the nearest public toilet and found 10 sectopods hiding up the U-bin.
She cradled her rifle to her chest, taking long, shaky breaths.
Hello, you look friendly. Do you want to be my friend?
Dr. Gorillapower screamed as out from nowhere a pink pony bounced into view, gabbling out a string of incoherent words in an excitable manner.
I'm flanked! I'm flanked!
Gorillapower cried as she looked for a way to escape. Hunt finally crawled behind a wall and hissed into his radio.
Keep your head, Gorillapower. Don't panic. Whatever you do, don't panic.
My name's Where's Pinkie Pie? What are you doing? What are you doing? You want a party?
The pony chirped happily, whipping out a large blue cannon from thin air and placing it in front of Gorillapower.
This is my party cannon. I put streamers and balloons and all sorts of fun things in here. It's got a cannon! It's got a cannon!
Gorillapower cried as she ignored Hunt's order and panicked. In such situations of high stress, there are very few options. In this case, Gorillapower pulled her rifle to bear and shot McKillicutter repeatedly until he collapsed in a spray of blood.
What? How? No!
Hunt shouted.
Get a grip, Gorillapower!
I'm going to die!
Gorillapower yelled, running as fast as she could away from the pony and cowering behind a nearby cart piled with hay. A moment later, the cart exploded into a gigantic fireball, sending Gorillapower's lifeless body into the air.
Bull!
Hunt half sobbed as he returned to McOwlyface.
We're not beaten yet, McOwlyface. These alien scum haven't seen our full armament yet.
McOwlyface adjusted the sights on her sniper rifle and fired at the pink pony. The shot hit a weather vane half a mile away.
Sir?
She frowned as she reloaded her rifle.
Are you sure this is the alien homeworld? I mean, it just seems to be full of little ponies.
What?
Hunt took out a small control pad and started to punch buttons.
How can you say that, McOwlyface, when Powergloves, McKillicutter, and Gorillapower are all lying dead in the hands of these alien bastards?
He pressed a final button, as from the Sky Ranger's ramp came a motorized humming.
Well, they won't know what hit them. We'll stay here and let Explodotron 5 do all the work.
Down the ramp trundled what could only be described as a large metal box on tank trains. Explodotron 5 was one of XCOM's most secret projects, a robotic battle unit known as the Shiv, to be used in the most dangerous of situations where no human operative could survive.
Now, let's see the aliens in that building face Explodotron 5.
Hunt hunkered down under his cover, manipulating a small joystick on the control pad as Explodotron 5 moved slowly but surely towards the large circular building where the three ponies were hiding. Motors whirring, it trundled through the doorway and stopped. Hunt hit the control pad in frustration.
It jammed in the doorway, bloody thing.
His rage soon turned to wicked delight as the screen on the pad lit up with 3 targets.
Oh, brilliant. It doesn't matter. They're in range. Now, those aliens will see what happened when you mess with XCOM. That's XCOM, baby.
As the targeting crosshairs centered on the forearm of Scootaloo, Hunt jabbed the fire button triumphantly. Nothing happened.
Oh, yeah.
McOwlyface leaned over Hunt's shoulder.
I don't think anyone put any guns on it.
What?
Hunt turned to McOwlyface with a face like thunder.
What do you mean no one put any guns on it? Explodotron 5 is just a box on wheels with a gun. If you don't put any guns on it, what's the point?
McOwlyface shrugged.
Don't ask me. It was Dr. Gorillapower's idea, and she wanted to try something new. I guess you could ask her.
She trailed off as she remembered Dr. Gorillapower's burning corpse, just meters away.
Or not. Hang on.
She took out her sniper rifle, aimed again at the pink pony, and missed once more. Hunt stared in despair at Explodotron 5 and pressed the fire button once more in desperation. Out of Explodotron 5's front panel spilled a cascade of syringes, all full of combat stims. Then Explodotron 5 exploded. Hunt gripped his rifle and reloaded it, gazing out upon the alien village, which had already taken the lives of so many of his troops.
I'm going out there,
He announced to McOwlyface.
Hooty, it's been an honor and pleasure serving with you in XCOM, but the world needs to be free, and if it takes my life to do so, so be it. I'm going to run out there and murder every alien bastard I see. I want you to sit here with your sniper rifle and shoot anything that moves, got it?
McOwlyface frowned, but reloaded her own gun and steadied the barrel against a fallen crate.
Everything, sir?
Everything.
Colonel Hunt saluted McOwlyface stiffly.
That's XCOM, baby.
He yelled, leaping out of cover and bounding across the village, gun in hand towards the ponies and into history. McOwlyface lifted her rifle, looked down the scope, and shot the first thing that moved. Hunt instantly dropped down dead, a perfect bullet hole drilled through his skull.
Ha!
Hooty happily called out to no one in particular.
I finally got one! I can't believe the mess those monkeys made of the town square with their silly games.
Mrs. Cake shook her head in annoyance as she wheeled the baby carriage along, rocking it gently. Pinkie Pie hopped alongside her, rolling her eyes.
Oh, those silly billies! They didn't even want to stop for a cake before exploding! How rude! Poor Scootaloo was really upset that she didn't get any icing, but I made her a big bun and she seemed happy.
They stopped by the fountain, which was already slowly being repaired as several stonemasons chipped away at newly hewn blocks of marble to repair the chunks broken by the fighting. Mrs. Cake was just about to reply when there was a sharp crack and a bullet flew over her head.
Goodness, Pinky, is this safe?
Pinky shrugged, pointing to the figure of Hooty McOwlyface, who was still crouched behind a wall at the far end of Ponyville, rifle pointed into the town. Every so often another shot would ring out.
Of course it's safe, Miss Cake. She's been there for hours. It's not like she's hurting anyone.
There was a gurgle from inside the pram, and Mrs. Cake reached in to pull out the little foal who was wrapped up within.
Is Mummy's little princess grouchy?
The little foal spat out its dummy and pointed a hoof down at the fallen body of McKillicutter, which hadn't yet been cleaned up.
Oh, don't worry about that.
Mrs. Cake smiled at her bundle of joy and glanced at McKillicutter.
That's XCOM, baby.